got Mike Oliver, the MTA Development Manager, who's been with the MTA for about 21 years. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
You're here to talk with us a little bit about some park and rides. Give us some updates on that. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy coming down for Transit Talk. It's great.
And talk to us about the park and ride project.
So this has been a long-planned project for the agency. We applied for some state funding about 2 years ago, and we're lucky enough to get in on the Regional Mobility Program with the state to enhance our park and rides around the county. Technically, Mason Transit doesn't own any properties for park and ride, but we manage and kind of oversee them. The county, the city, and the Washington State Department of Transportation owns all the park and rides in the county. So we're working out partnerships with those folks, and we envisioned a big enhancement of those parking areas for users of transit. It's always problematic to find a place to park if you're going to hop on a bus and go to one of our adjacent counties. So it's an effort to kind of bring all that into play, do some really needed upgrades, some enhancements, maybe some paving and security upgrades and things like that. So yeah, we're really excited about the project.
How many park and rides does Mason County have?
There's technically 8 in the county. We're really going to be working diligently on 6 of those locations, with the possibility of working with the folks that are developing the Shelton Hills project. And we don't know what that looks like yet. It may be a parking hub, if you will, with some shelters and a bit of parking, but our bigger emphasis in the Shelton proper area is the Shelton Matlock location at 101. So,
yeah. Drive by that on the way home every day. So when you talk about these 6 of the 8, what's the budget for something like this?
We were lucky enough to pull a $10 million grant, and it's kind of divvied out over 2 bienniums. The state works on a 2-year project list, so their bienniums start in at the end of June on 1 year, go 2 years to the beginning of July, so the budget is actually broken over 2 bienniums, which started last year. So we'll get about 1/3 of the funding up front, and then of course the second biennium budget will be approved by the legislature. It has to have a legislative act to authorize that through the state budget. We don't foresee any problem in getting that, but it's still a hurdle we have to prepare for. So up front, what we're doing with the first bit of funding is ensuring that we have a good design and kind of a good plan in place for the locations that we're going to be doing the work on. The only new, really new park and ride location will be in North Mason County, somewhere close to the Kitsap line from Belfair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this funding is not like a grant. It directly comes from the state.
It is a grant.
So do you have to match the money?
We do.
Then?
We have some match funding, and it depends on whether it's capital or operational through the Regional Mobility Program. We anticipate putting in somewhere in the neighborhood of 20%, which is budgeted throughout the bienniums.
When you look at the Shelton Matlock area park and ride, how do you determine the number of spaces available?
For planning purposes to increase, right now in all of the park and rides that we're looking at, we have about 150, give or take, parking spots. We know that in certain areas, like for instance the what we call the Harstein Park and Ride out on Highway 3, we know that that's well used by our shipyard service workers and other commuters. But we really, that's one of the things we're doing now in our studies is taking a look at the number of users. We're doing traffic counts, we're doing ridership counts, anything we can get our hands on to develop the data and determine what the size of those should be currently and into the future. We have contracted with a consultant to help us with that work. So they're making great headway in developing that process and developing a public outreach effort so that as we go through the process, the public is fully aware of what we're doing.
I'm guessing a goal for you would be not only public human safety, but also the safety of people's cars that are left there.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're really lacking in our park and ride locations is any kind of security features. So we will be looking at pretty high-end video
Sure.
recording, in some areas enhanced working out with the local law enforcement agencies and the state, signage, just as much as we can do to make those things more, as safe as possible for the users.
So where are we at on the project timeline-wise?
Right now, as I said earlier, we are really developing our, the big thing is the public outreach piece. We want to make sure that the public's involved. Since we brought our consultant on about 3 months ago, we've been really working hard on getting a contact list together so that the proper folks are notified at the proper time so we can get input from the public. We'll be doing some more outreach there. We're working hard on the design for each location, developing the budget within the bigger budget for each location so that we can make sure that we have a good funding picture for all the different pieces of the work. So it's a little bit challenging in that it's a multi-location project. It's the first time I've ever worked on anything like this, and it's pretty exciting. So we get the bigger pot of money. We have to divvy that up and make sure that each piece gets its due work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are they all going to be completed about the same time, or which one do you see?
That's the hope. Right now, the emphasis is really on the North Mason new park and ride. We want to get that property procured as soon as possible, so we're looking at best locations, working through that. We should be contacting landowners. We've identified 9 locations in North Mason County, and we've whittled that down to 3 that look like they'll be sufficient for us. Highway 3 up north is a challenge. Ask anybody that lives in Belfair right now, and they'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
So we're trying to get that piece done and get all the design work done in the rest of this biennium. And then when our bigger funding comes in, get construction started. We hope to have everything done by mid-2019.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're talking with Mike Oliver, the MTA Development Manager. What are some other projects that you're working on there at Mason Transit?
We've got a couple kind of coupled up with our park and ride project. There's a big emphasis for electric vehicle charging and those type of things. Mason Transit is also on board with a state grant effort through a federal program to purchase the county's first all-electric bus. Now, Christina may have talked about that previously during Transit Talk a little bit. We're pretty excited about this. It's a great opportunity for Mason Transit to kind of step up and put our toes in the water of the electric vehicle process. So if the state is lucky enough to draw that, I think there's 6 or 7 agencies around the state, rural agencies around the state that are represented in the grant application, and we may get our very first electric bus. Now, having that, we're going to require some charging infrastructure. So one of the things we're coupling up with in the North Mason Park and Ride effort is a charging station for that. Also around in the other, if they warrant enough use at the other locations we've identified through our research, they will have public electric vehicle charging stations.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's another big piece of the project we're working on that we're pretty excited about. And other than that, it's just been kind of business as usual.
What do you think of that electric bus that was in town? Did you get a chance to see it?
The one that caught fire at Mason Transit?
No. What?
Yeah. They had a little battery glitch. And,
Oh, my gosh.
The technology is moving so fast in that it's important to remember that everything needs to be vetted out. And
Yeah.
the federal government is really expediting the purchase of these vehicles to kind of meet the Clean Air Act requirements. So, yes, we had one, and it had a little incident, and it was a good thing. Because it kind of brought to mind when you plan things like this, you need to bring your local fire, your local emergency response, the troops out in the shop. You need to make sure that they're apprised of this kind of stuff. So it kind of really sparked a movement in Western Washington in the purchase of electric buses.
Oh.
So it wasn't serious.
Yeah, silver lining then.
Yeah, it was a silver lining thing. So personally, I think it's the way of the future. There are just a ton of electric vehicles out there now being operated. The demand is great for them. If we can kind of bring the research around and the development around of the charging systems and the infrastructure that support everybody, I think that's going to be a great thing for the nation. So,
Mike Oliver from MTA, the development manager on this week for Transit Talk, talking about the park and ride projects and some other things that Mason Transit's working on. Thanks for coming in this morning.
hey, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a
Anytime
pleasure.
you'd like to come on down and update us on some of these things, work it out with Christina, but we'd love to have you.
There you go.
825.
ABC Entertainment News. Here's Jason.